And we have Ed Worley on first in SoCal, at least on my list here. Ted Ryman in Cape Town, Republic of South Africa. Peter Taylor in New York City. Welcome to all. We get into show 616 for this Tuesday, the 9th of May. Alistair Murray is up. And Adam Early, he's actually up in Brisbane, Julia. He's not down in Melbourne. Jonathan Frank in Galveston. Julie Ahrens saying hi from sunny Cleveland. Julie Ahrens. Jared DeYoung in SoCal. Gordon Smith in Denmark. A safe haven from the Eurovision Song Contest. Is that going on tonight? Oh, dear me, dear me. The harbor is free of ice at last, Roger Lockhart is saying as we count down to the start of this one. Welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club on this Tuesday, the 9th of May. My co-host, Julia Vadekant, is here, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club. I trust you're well.
Actually, I am. How's that?
That's pretty good.
Yep.
You look good. You sound good. I'm your host, Tom Eamon, of course. Tom and Julia here at the Beach Street Yacht Club for this, I think, very interesting show. A lot to cover. Of course, we had SailGP here in San Francisco this weekend. Did you enjoy that, Julia?
Yes, I did.
You saw both days. You went over to the YC, to your
did.
yacht club. Mine too, but the St. Fancy, as some people call it.
Yes.
It was a nice event.
It was.
And we had Bertie Bickett and
Yes.
his wife Katie were there.
Yes.
He is the chairman of the Royal Yacht Squadron's Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, which is their racing arm.
Mm-hmm.
And the Challenger of Record for the next cup. It was nice to see them. We had the sponsor, Kevin McLean, who's the sponsor of the Kiwis team.
Yes.
Alvarium. He had a lot of guests there. They were in the Northwest Room of St. Francis. A lot of people next door at the Adrenaline Club
Yes.
for SailGP. And you kind of held court in the grill room
Yes.
at your center table right there with a lot of friends who passed by. It was good
Yes.
fun.
It was good fun.
Let's get into it. It's 13:03 here in San Francisco. Welcome to the show. And I want to start by thanking, of course, Andrew Pindar, who was with us on Friday, gave us a terrific preview of His Majesty's coronation on Saturday. Some of us I didn't, but some people we were talking to on Saturday had gotten up early to watch. It was 0300, I think, the festivities started here in San Francisco. But thanks again to Andrew Pindar from GBR, OBE, and DL, which means Deputy Lieutenant. He's one of the Monarch's representatives in the field, so to speak, as he lives up there in Scarborough and has that responsibility, having taken it over, I believe, from his father. And he was with us on Friday. Go back and look at that show. It was a lot of fun, very interesting. And of course, on Saturday, it did take place. His Majesty King Charles III was coronation took place, and we have a winner of the day. A new feature here, Julia.
Oh, good.
Winner of the day is Ben Ainsley, who I think I thought showed a lot of class, style, dignity, grace by putting His Majesty's coronation seal on the side of his F-50 here.
Right.
That showed up on Saturday for the racing here in San Francisco. Great stuff. And, of course, he sailed well, too. Didn't quite get to the top of the heap, but he got into the final three. The loser of the day, who do you think the loser of the day was, Julia? The Kurtonic Spare.
Oh, okay.
And, he kind of looked like pardon the expression, like a spare prick at a wedding.
Oh, no.
Oh, you can shake your finger at me if you want. But he really did. And that poor kid, I mean, I don't know if he's being led astray by his American wife or what. He showed up, walked in. The lip readers were trying to figure out what he was saying. And if the lip readers were accurate, we've seen it in all the various media from the UK. But irrespective of that, he ought to have his privacy. And then he bolted over. He went to Buckingham. Apparently, he tried one last chance.
Did he?
Yeah, he went to Buckingham, according to the press reports, to try to get out on the balcony. And of course, he was excused. He was
Yes.
not welcome out on the balcony.
Right.
And they invited him to the lunch.
And he didn't go.
He didn't go. He split for the airport because he had to get back here to California for the birthday party of his son.
Fourth birthday party.
Was it the 4th?
Mm.
Well, bravo Zulu to the royal family. It was a fabulous event. Went off without a flaw. I just wrapped that whole commentary up with this shot.
Where's that from?
That's Prince, formerly known as Prince Charles.
Yeah.
You remember when the guitarist Prince changed his name to whatever the symbol was.
Yeah.
Whatever that symbol meant, but he was thereafter known as Prince. We didn't know what to call the symbol. Mm-hmm. That came through this morning from Graham Sweeney, one of our most prolific and clever Aussie from Yale, Scotland. Thank you, Graham, for that. Julia, do you know what day it is this week?
Oh, Nurses Week.
How can we forget? It's at least in this country. I don't know if you're celebrating it in your country, but it is National Nurses Week and maybe National Nurses Month too here in the U.S. But you can make it the National Nurses Year for all they do for us. Thank you to all of them. We have one or two nurses who are special, right, to our hearts.
Absolutely.
And we wish all of them. In fact, some of you wrote in nice notes. I posted it on my Facebook. And Susan Watson-Kenny down in Newport Beach said, nurses are the best. They have been the rock that we have needed so many times, sometimes at our most vulnerable, with too many family members, and even myself a few times. Couldn't agree more, Susan. Likewise, Steve Atkins, who, of course, was the first person of Fozy we knew who had COVID, right, Julia?
Right.
And he's saying, angels, lifesavers, unsung heroes. Couldn't agree more.
Always, yeah.
And any of you who are nurses, and I know several of our Fozy are or were active nurses, and I think everybody on here would agree. Wherever in the world you are, we celebrate the first responders and the medical people and so on, but especially the nurses. This week, we're going to talk a lot about Tom Slingsby today. He's the hero of the week as well, along with the nurses. And he having sailed a brilliant regatta. But first, let's get into our regular report from John Emmett, who's checking in from Weymouth. Coach's Corner, the Super Fozy, and Olympic coach John Emmett.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Really nice to be here. You may be able to tell from my background, I'm back in Weymouth, so probably going to get a bit of footage from the sailing clubs. Yesterday I did my first evening race, and I've got to say the cider tastes even better after you've done a bit of hard hiking. We did 4 laps around a short course and sailing with a young guy, or sailing against a young guy called Ollie, who I think I'll probably be teaming up with to do some events, and I think that'll work out very well for both of us. But yeah, the club race, really nice. A lot of people perhaps put off by the weather. As far as I'm aware, in the UK, or certainly around Weymouth, we've had the wettest March ever. We've had the wettest April ever, or certainly one of them, you know, like 200% the normal rainfall. And May so far, it's looking pretty wet as well. I think Lily, when she came back from Shanghai, probably got a false impression, but there we go. I've blurred the background a little bit, just at the sort of skate park, whatever, near my house, and it's a nice, quiet day. So we're just going to chat about the sort of sailing spectator side of things, because I've got to say I really enjoyed the Sail Grand Prix. I thought it was absolutely fantastically watchable. It gave people a lot to talk about. I mean, you can argue a lot about the format. It's very easy to sit on your sofa and criticise the sailors and say, you know, if Ben attacked 1 second earlier in that last race or whatever, you know, the result would have been different. But that's such a good thing, to have that passionate sailing. And I really enjoyed the aggressive sailing. In fact, talking about Ben, it almost felt when he had a clear target on the Saturdays, the team performed better. And I wonder if there's an argument there for it to finish on a match race, but somehow it doesn't, you know, the very end result isn't so as important as the journey getting there. And I am very happy for Tom's team and Australians to win, because I think by far they've sailed the best, and if another team one, maybe I wouldn't probably be feeling the same way. And he was very gracious, because obviously it's not just him, but he's there, well, pretty much with all his mates, people who've sailed with for probably a decade now, which get the boat around the course the way they do. And I think probably you saw Ben as a bit of a target to start with that first race, and really, you know, did a fantastic job. And that nail-biting finish with the Kiwis, you know, we had a few siders yesterday and we were all talking about sailing, so that's only a good thing. And if you can get 10 teams involved, and I'm sure the season will get better and better. And I don't see it, you know, always being dominated by one team. I think the competition is getting closer and closer, and I think this one race takes it all. I do think it's a good format for this sort of thing. I don't think I feel that way about the Olympics, because it's something that only happens every 4 years. So a lot of people, it could take them 8 years to get there. Although some classes do have this sort of winner-take-it-all format, which is fine, because the Olympics is reflecting their normal class racing, their normal style. But for, you know, the consistency side of the sport, I think it's really important that everybody feels the person who sailed the best won. And the media job, I think, is very much about promoting the personalities and the sport. And actually, it doesn't really matter how fast the boats go, if that makes sense. It's about how close the racing is. So I'm going to continue to try and do the interviews. I think there's a lot of really good personalities out there, and just to try and expose, you know, what a wonderful sport which we do, and how lucky we are to do that. So if you haven't already, please share this so other people can watch it live. I think one of the reasons I enjoy the show so much is just because of the comments and stuff that goes on. And I always find it much easier to watch in an evening in the UK than other destinations. But yep, hopefully see you soon.
John Emmett, a fantastic report once again, and the comments are in fact rolling in. Well said about looking at the bottom there and working up. So, well said about SailGP, John. That's from Stingray. Gordon Smith. John's point is a good one. SailGP is getting conversation started about sail sport. David James weighing in just across the bridge, saying Miami, the F1 looked surprisingly good. Yep. Red Bull once again coming through. What were they, first and third? It didn't please Lily very much after 30 degrees in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Pedro Falling Sailor, sorry you're having a connection problem down there, but I don't think anyone else is. It looks good here on our equipment as we press on. You know, we can discuss what John was saying about whether SailGP should just be 2 boats in a match race instead of, you know, Paul Elstrom came up with this 3-boat thing called we called Elstrom triple racing at the time. And that's sort of what this is, what Russell's done now with the finals here. I like having all 3 boats because it adds another element of complexity. We'll see at the start when Sir Ben had to go off, when Tom Slingsby had to go off and protect against both of those boats, protect against Sir Ben and then go attack the Kiwis to get to the first mark ahead of them. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. But thanks again to John for that report. Back in the saddle in Weymouth. So he's there for a little bit before the next big Olympic regatta. And we appreciate, as always, as does Jonathan Frank down in Texas. Great report as always, John Emmett. Couldn't say it better than that. Yeah, Greg Phillips is saying Greg's down in Oz, likes the 3 boats. Makes for much better racing. Yeah, especially, you know, if Ben got a little bit behind there in that final race, and had the Kiwis not been in that race, for example, or vice versa, it wouldn't have been quite so interesting. And yes, they were gracious. All 3 of these guys they make us proud to have them in our sport. Ben and Pete and Tommy, I think you couldn't go wrong with any of those 3. And we'll talk some more about it when we get into it in a moment. 2-boat match racing, anything that accelerates this fast is a boring parade. Fog Machine is saying. Good point. Yeah, 2-boat match racing in big, heavy, slow boats like 12s is more interesting. Julie Aaron saying that Slingsby was so gracious. He had nothing but praise for Sir Ben. Well, Sir Ben had a great regatta. I mean, he came from behind on...
He did, yeah.
Well, not from behind. Well, he was. He was behind the French going into this regatta. Thanks again, John. That is John Emmett. John Emmett Sailing. Go to the front of the fleet. with John Emmett Sailing. He's got, some really good videos on his Facebook page, his website from years ago. Yeah, and mostly ilk or laser focused, but good stuff. And we appreciate his reports each and every show.
Absolutely.
And he likes to say, Julia,
Please subscribe and share to your own Facebook and YouTube page.
he does indeed, and he is right, and we appreciate that. I'm going to open with some interesting, but it's a continuing rant about what's going on in Saudi Arabia because it's breaking news. It just came out literally after I'd gone to hair and makeup, came back in here and sit down and try to get the cameras ready and the show bound, as Julia will know.
Yes.
I said, there's breaking news from Jim Farmer, who's posted to his blog down in New Zealand, and I'm going to excerpt from it and read parts of it. It's about, of course, this second AC-37 preliminary regatta that's to be held, according to Grant Dalton, on the waters of the Red Sea in Jeddah later this year. And former QC, now KC, because we have a king, not a queen, but King's Counsel Jim Farmer, and Fozie's been on this show a handful of times. I'm excerpting now from a post that went up this morning on James Farmer KC. It's his blog, his legal blog, but he comments on things in general in New Zealand. And he talks, first of all, about what a great history with Sir Michael Fay, and then beyond when the late, great Peter Blake won the Cup back, the Red Sox campaign, how the whole country got behind that, and then the defense, and then the loss, and then the winning it back, and how great the Cup has been over the long haul for New Zealand until now. And he says it has all been downhill since the win in 2021. Dalton cajoled he says, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, which under the America's Cup deed of gift, as you all know, is the true holder and trustee for the Cup, into agreeing to the next defense in 2024 being hosted by Barcelona in Spain. As a softener to the disappointment and anger that was generated, to say nothing of all the members that have quit the RNZ, he told the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron members meeting that one of the preliminary regattas leading up to the challenge event would be held in Auckland. That promise will not be kept. Only one of the preliminary regattas will be held outside Spain and not in New Zealand, but far worse than that, the city chosen for that event is Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, a country with the worst human rights record in the modern world and noted for its frequent public executions by beheading or hangings, 81 in one day last year, and including women and young men who were minors at the time of their convictions. I'm jumping down a bit in his post, but you can all go read it. I'll give you the link in a moment. The RNZYS, having royal patronage also, claims an analogous status, participating in and hosting a major sporting event in Jeddah under the New Zealand banner will do huge damage to the reputation of this country as one that respects and advocates human rights. Its proud boast, meaning New Zealand's, as the first country in the world to give voting rights to women, and which has seen women hold the positions of Governor General, Prime Minister, and Chief Justice, not just once, but a number of times, will be tarnished with the same label of hypocrite that has been justifiably leveled at Team New Zealand in that article we told you, we read to you, excerpted from by Dana Johansson, New Zealand Herald, and stuff.co.nz on our previous show. This view led me to write to the New Zealand Herald, that letter which we also quoted on this show, urging both Team NZ and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron to remove New Zealand from their names if they were to lend support to the Saudi sports washing bribery. Wrapping this up, Jim says, all of this takes us back to the cry of, quote, sport and politics don't mix, unquote, when protests were made about plans to send the All Blacks to South Africa during the apartheid era. There is no doubt that, with the assistance of the High Court, the fact that the All Black team did not go to South Africa was a significant contributor to the ultimate end of apartheid in South Africa. Dalton's claim that his taking Saudi money, 6 million euros, by the way, to hold an America's Cup regatta will help end human rights abuses is, of course, self-serving nonsense. The effect will be the opposite. The fact that the challengers face the unenviable choice of not going to Saudi in support of moral principle and thereby being excluded from taking part in the Challenger Series or of taking part to remain in the Cup is itself the outcome of another form of abuse of power. So writes Jim Farmer, KC, King's Counsel, one of the top lawyers, not only in New Zealand, but in that corner of the world, certainly. And you can read his entire piece on James Farmer QC. He's not changed the URL for his blog, jamesfarmerqc.co.nz, and I commend it to you. Julia, your reaction?
Yes, strong and wonderful.
You think he's spot on?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I do too, and maybe Julie Ahrens thinks this is old news and we shouldn't revisit it, but we have to, because I can now confirm again, as we did on Friday's show. It's Tuesday, right? I have to remember what day it is. I should look at my calendar and clock.
And I said Tuesday already.
And it's Tuesday already, but I told you New York Yacht Club has filed with the arbitration panel for relief to be required to go to that regatta, because it's in the protocol that all the teams have to attend these pre-regattas wherever in the world they may be. And if not, they could be fined or they could be excluded from the Challenger Series. They could be excluded from the entire Cup.
Right.
Which is frankly ridiculous. Remember, 17 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudis. There's still a radical element in that country and around. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Crouton who led that entire plan and led that whole thing was a Saudi, though he is no longer, thank God, he's no longer with us, at least not on this planet. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron should be ashamed. They have completely abrogated their responsibilities as the trustee. It's seriously hurting their membership, as we've been reporting, and I can confirm again, there were members of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron at St. Francis over the weekend who pulled me aside and said, "You're right, you're absolutely right. We've got serious financial problems as a result of members who joined when the Cup was in New Zealand again, a beautiful, wonderful Cup. Even in the midst of COVID in 2021, they put on a great event, a great show, and a great defense. They won it. But now they've gone offshore, and it is Croutonic, to say the least. This club should be ashamed. Further members have quit, including Jim Farmer, including the guy who really got Royal New Zealand and the country of New Zealand into the Cup, Sir Michael Fay. He's quit. And, of course, we told you on Friday that the esteemed also lawyer Hamish Ross, who's another Fozy, has resigned in disgust, frankly. That event is slated to take place in Jeddah the 30th of November through the 3rd of December, the second AC preliminary regatta after the first one in Spain, just down the coast from Barcelona. I don't know why they just don't go ahead, run all of them in Spain, save the money of going to Jeddah, and, of course, follow the money, because there's an event fee being paid by the Saudis to Grant Dalton and America's Cup events of, reported to me, 6 million euros. Moreover, Julie, you know what I'm about to say, is that there is the apparent promise that if the Kiwis successfully defend in Barcelona, the next event will be in Jeddah. And this is a trial horse, so to speak, for such an event. Read Jim Farmer's entire article. It's terrific. It's at jamesfarmerqc.co.nz. You will not be disappointed in spending a bit of time to do that. Okay, on to, well, it's not quite better news, but on to sailing, more prescient sailing news, and that is the ocean race will lead with the sad news. Some of you will have seen it on my Facebook page last night. I posted it immediately. I got the tweet from Alicante, but on this fourth leg, we now have another dismasting. Geo Environment Team Europe has dismasted. This was my post last night. You can see them here in the green boat over here. Obviously, the tracker having them pointing the wrong way from Newport as they were getting I immediately went to the tracker, and they're trying to cut the rig free, and they're trying to get it up on what's left of it, up on deck. You can see their velocity made to the course was negative 2.7 knots as they're going away from Newport. But all that doesn't matter, is that only 3 boats left in the race, because this is the second dismasting. Now, to be fair, they've gone through some what the website and what the sailors are describing as heinous conditions. Big seas, north of 30 knots consistently, and big sea conditions. And these boats, remember, are not really designed to be sailed around the ocean, and limited, big crews on board and so on. So it's no surprise there's some breakage. This is Guillot Environment Team Europe before they broke. And of course, they joined Holcim PRB, having been dismasted on this leg. Holcim PRB being shipped from Rio up to Newport. We hope they make it in time. Indeed, we hope these guys make it in time. This is the first pictures released early this morning, our time, of the recovery of what was left of their rig that they could get up on the bow, up on the deck. And they will be motoring some kind of a jury rig, I suppose, to Newport, and we hope they make it in time. Here's the race report. .240, sailing in 40 knots of wind in a complicated sea state. Guillot sent a report back that their mast had broken, but thank God all crew were safe. Doug.
Oh, gosh. Cold and hot.
And the 2 lead boats are only, 400, 500, 600 miles? Something like that from Newport. Less than that, 300 miles.
Yeah.
And all 3 boats, Biotherm, and they're going to finish. They're all going to be on the podium. Yesterday evening, in anticipation of a tough weather forecast, the fleet prepared for a hard night. That's aboard 11th Hour Racing. The fleet has endured a brutal night at sea as sailors play a delicate balance between performance, pushing the boat hard, and keeping it one piece.
It's low pressure that's kind of
Charlie Enright
formed by and sitting just over the Gulf Stream, which is a pretty treacherous place even without a low pressure system. So we've gone through the process of reducing all of our sail to 2 block. We have third reef and a storm jib up.
Third reef in the main and a storm jib. At these speeds and this wind angle, life on board becomes almost unbearable.
I'm sure.
Yeah, imagine trying to sleep in these conditions.
No.
There's some sea out there.
The conversation that goes around.
Yeah, hang on just a second in case I have to read one. I wish they'd voice these. We'll come back to you in a second. It's always hard to do this angle, Damien Foxall is saying. Also,
Deep hour is a long way down to deep hour, and when you get a lot of breeze, you can only achieve so much.
weather conditions will ease throughout the day. The race leaders can now turn their attention to the complicated final stretch into Newport, where they should finish tomorrow, Wednesday, maybe late tomorrow, in fact, as the breeze has gotten light, as you'll see from Clark Chapin's charts here in a moment. I'll take you to I'll show you the tracker, first of all, from what I had a couple hours ago. And you can see here, there's Guillot out here just hanging out with what? They're suspended, so they're not taking their data anymore. Biotherm's in third, Team Elites is in second, and 11th Hour Racing has actually extended their lead. There's some 37 miles, almost 40 miles ahead last I checked. That was a screen grab from this morning. And there is the numbers. Biotherm 180 miles back of the leader. Team Elites having fallen. I wonder if they're having some problems on Team Elites. We don't really know, but There's another shot, Julia. You were saying something.
Yeah, I was following the conversation, which says these boats weren't built for these kinds of forces in the open ocean and all that. But Pindar reminds us that that's exactly what they were designed for.
Well, yeah, but not with full crew loads and not being pushed probably as hard as they are when you have a full crew. And I think Andrew's right. This picture is this picture's, this is what they've had, although it's now calmed down quite a bit. And we'll go now to the tracker. This is live. And if I show you the wind here, there we go. Where's the wind? So they are now broad reaching. All three of them reaching, the biotherms reaching, the other two are sort of broad reaching now up to Newport. And they've got to thread their way through not only these outer exclusion zones here, but then they've got to get around this inner exclusion zone. Remember last time they were coming more from the south, and that was quite an interesting situation last time. But the current positioning, Team Militia has gained 10 miles since a couple hours ago, and they're only 23, almost 24 nautical miles behind 11th Hour Racing. Biotherm 180 miles back in this. This is current, looking at the race tracker. There is some criticism. I don't share it, but there is some conspiracy theory that they're letting 11th Hour win this leg. They're into their hometown, Newport, Rhode Island. I don't buy it, but there's plenty of chatter around the world about that. And this is Clark Chapin's chart. Thanks again, Clark. And you can see 11th Hour and Team Militia. Team Militia having, had an up and down vis-a-vis 11th Hour Racing. Biotherm likewise falling back. Clark projecting that now that they're in this lightish air, here's the speed of the leader, which at 1600 today, local time, UTC, today, you can see they've dropped, that is the leader, meaning 11th Hour Racing, their speed has dropped to 7 knots, which is probably why the breeze behind being a touch stronger, maybe that's why you're seeing a gain now from Militia. But it is going to be interesting. I don't think this is a done deal by any stretch, at least among the top two boats. And we shall soon see as they close in on Newport and get there sometime, probably tomorrow. Julia?
Fog Machine says that they're almost as down-powered as they can get with 3 reefs in the J3.
Well, that's right. I mean, they were. They're not now. They're, I'm sure, back up and running with all their sail area because it's quite a bit lighter. Let's just go back to some of these other comments. Again, working from the bottom, Rick Bannerow asking, how do they get the sargassum weed off the foils, keel, and rudder, especially at the speeds they're going? Yeah, well, they've got weed sticks and so on, and they've been working on that. I don't think they've got leading edge cutters. Maybe some of you will know. Lynn Jewel Shore. Hi, Lynn. Nice. She's up in Newport, of course. Longtime friend, terrific sailor, medalist in the 88 games, first female to win a medal in the Olympics and Sailing Olympics, saying they're estimated to arrive 2 to 6 p.m. East Coast. Is that today, Lynn? That's not today. That's tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. Yeah. I can't imagine anyone holding back after racing in those conditions unless they're offered €6 million. Greg Phillips. What do you think of that, Julia? Clever comment. Yeah, tomorrow, Lynn Shore is saying, Lynn Jewel. Lynn is really working hard to try to get our Olympic program back in order. We have a chat every now and then, and she is redoubling her efforts to try to make that happen. Steve Gruber, thanks, Steve. Replying to to Rick Bannerow, when it gets too bad, that is the weeds, the seagrass, you stop and back down because you can't carry on with the stuff on your foils and rudder. Stingray is saying this is ridiculous. How did 11-hour racing cause the dismastings? Well, I don't think anybody's saying that, Stingray. I just think people are saying that maybe others are slowing to let 11th hour get into Newport first. I don't buy it. I think that's Steve Gruber saying it's all about sponsor fulfillment. Remember the 3-boat Citizen Cup in '95? That wasn't about sponsor fulfillment, actually.
It wasn't?
No, it wasn't. It was about keeping all the teams in there and competitive. Well, I think the sponsors weren't a big issue at that point. I didn't. I didn't. Everybody thinks I came up with that deal. I didn't. I wrote up the deal at the request of all three teams. I being the amateur wordsmith that I am. Amory Ross, 11th hour, on 11th hour, said they had 3 reefs in J3 almost. Yeah, that was at the height of that storm and all that breeze. But I think the bigger problem was not the breeze. I mean, 30, 40 knots is not that, it's breeze, but it's not that. It's the seaway. And they had a hell of a seaway out there. Okay, anything else on before we leave the ocean race?
Still a lot of time for 11th hour to run into something.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Frank. Yeah. Jonathan, thank you for that. Julia, thank you for keeping an eye on those comments. One more. Replying to Julie Aaron's, Tom, reading Julie Aaron's comment, you need to get her on your show live and don't do off on a tangent.
Don't go off on a
I know
tangent.
she's talking about the Australian thing. We'll get Julie on here at some point. Maybe we'll record a segment. I don't see where her comments are. She's
it's next to the bottom right now.
next to the bottom. I don't see her comment on my list here.
Oh, it's Pedro.
That's Pedro Filing Sailor's comment,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Julie's comment. Okay, let's get on to the Bravo Zulu, the really cool news. This was a good event. The racing, even some of you who are not all that enthused about SailGP thought particularly the final race was pretty interesting and close. As you know, there were 9 boats from 9 countries. In the final regatta, I'm sorry, I can't call it anything. It's not the stage. It's not it's a regatta, bloody hell. And it was the final regatta of the 2022-2023 season. Tom Slingsby, as you will all know, and his SailGP team from Australia won in grand style, but not. It was close. They had to hold off the Kiwis at the last mark and up the last windward leg, and then that reaching leg across. It was quite fun, and they have three-peated. Quite fun to watch.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't so much for them. Fun. Tom Slingsby's valiant team. Now, I tell you what, I have looked everywhere, and I know probably Peter Stevenson and Alistair Murray and probably Jody Shields, they are Aussie friends, and others of you in Australia can tell me, put names with faces. But I looked everywhere. I looked on the website. I looked on the Australian. They have a bit of an Australian SailGP Facebook page. And I couldn't find the names to put with the faces. I mean, I know most of them. But with, when you're trying to put one of these shows together, I don't understand. Even Richard Gladwell's piece, and he wrote a great piece on this regatta and the Aussies win. He didn't have the names of the crew there either, and the coach and so on. So I just hope, and we'll identify them. If somebody will send me the names in this picture, names with faces, I will run it dutifully on Friday. But Bravo Zulu to all of them. Kenny, I mean, they're just a terrific team, and to win this thing 3 in a row was astonishing. Day 1 highlights.
Lines clear there. Great start by Robertson. Great start by Seb Schneider on board the Swiss boat, and I think that inside line's going to see the Swiss lead us around Mark 1. It's great to see Australia out in front, but the action for this place in the final is taking place right in the pack as France are chasing down the British. He turned the boat. You see the French. He's trying to dive out the way of Canada there. Look at that. Turns the boat away from the wind. They fall off the foils. What a moment there. That's so unfortunate for the French.
And it's the Aussies who sneak away and get the win in race number 1. Ben Ainsley put points between them and the French, and that is mission number 1.
Perfect start there. Ainsley on board Gremlins, Great Britain out the middle of the line. Seb Schneider again, brilliant, but Delapierre's in the race this time. Great save by the French crew there, but it should be Ainsley leading at Mark 1. How high are they going to dare fly their boat? Yeah, I think that's Contan there. He's saying we've got to attack, we've got to push. That means flying the boat high out the water. Emily always tells us that from the data. Fly the boats high and you're going to get these things going a lot faster. But that comes with a level of risk, but it's got no choice but to take some risk now, Todd.
It is Emirates GBR that will take the win in race number 2. And with one more race to go, they are looking fantastic on the first day of sailing here at the Mubadala SailGP Season 3 Grand Final, San Francisco.
Ainsley wins another start over Contant de la Pierre. It's a masterclass.
Race number 3, day number 1 goes to the 2-time reigning and defending champion, Australia. Take it in grand style.
Perfect day for Emirates GBR. Is there any motion on board that boat?
So as day 1, as Saturday came to a close, it was pretty clear here from the standings that the Brits, having had a 2-1-2, and the French having a 6-8-8, 6-8-6, and we're second to last. They were 8th place on the leaderboard, that it was going to be the Brits going through unless they did something completely horrific on Sunday, which they did not. So Ben and Tom Slingsby, the Aussies, were tied at the top of the leaderboard on Saturday evening. But remember one other thing, that on Friday, you may not know that in the practice racing, Sir Ben and his British team won 2 of the 3 races. Well, I think they were, I don't remember what their other finish was, but they won 2 of the 3 practice races. And they looked competitive. They looked fast. In fact, a lot of people, a lot of Brits around, including at St. Francis Yacht Club, right, Julia?
Yep.
A lot of them. And people from all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, and so on. It was a great spirit, great enthusiasm, good fun. A lot of people were counting on Sir Ben to come through and win the whole damn thing on Sunday. Of course, that did not happen. Here are the highlights.
How's your timing up at the top of the line there, Tom Slingsby? Watch for the lines turn right. Oh, they're all on the money, but out of the middle of the line, it's Canada, Australia, and at the bottom, a close incident between USA.
France come across the finish line, and it's C'est Magnifique once again. Contant de la Pierre gets the win in race 4.
Disaster for Canada. They just got really slow on that final mark. Who's going to get it on the line here, Todd?
And it looks like Australia just gets ahead of Denmark.
Great start there by Canada, but right-hand side of screen, Australia sailed New Zealand off the start. Another mistake in the pre-start by Burling. He needs to improve that. Here we go, and it's tight. I don't know about that. Look at this, how tight it is there. Spain have the inside, but Emirates GBR tried to dive inside. Aggressive tactics from Ainsley.
Australia, with all the momentum in the world, the 2-time reigning and defending champions, win race number 5.
Dives across, looking for that inside position. They're going to be fighting back to the line and expect the Kiwis to be separated from the other 2 boats at the start. Ainsley's hooked. We go in the $1 million race here in San Francisco. Oh,
and
they're going to stay
Australia
on the
puts
foils.
it down.
Oh, he's got to stay above 30. Oh my Lord, he's off the foils. This has given New Zealand a chance. Australia have got to keep clear here. New Zealand stay on the foils. What do Australia do? New Zealand, if they can get over that, wow, no. Slingsby holds on. He leads at Mark 5. Oh.
First to the circle, and Australia has priority, and the Kiwis, and now it is an absolute drag race for $1 million. The Australian dynasty is still intact, and the three-peat is now complete.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Now, the truth is, we have seen a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
And I think Rick Bannerow has hit the nail right on the head. You'd think they'd figure out how to come out of commercial break sooner than 8 seconds before the start. Yes. Announcers stepping all over the boat comms, to say nothing of stepping all over each other, Rick. That was and laughing. I mean, one guy's trying to give good commentary, and the other guy's laughing. Ah, look at that! Talk about croutonic. Apologizing for language that was essentially unintelligible. Yeah, okay, well, they have to do that. But still, only the 3-boat final allowed the announcers to not sound like the old FedEx. Fast talk. Hey, we can talk to a fast. Remember those old FedEx commercials?
Yes.
Jesus. Excuse me. But seriously, the racing was good, but the comment, Russell's got to fix this for next year. And, you know, sometimes when it's that close, all you do is shut the fudge up and let people watch what's going on. Most everybody knows that it's not Formula One. Almost everybody knows that, let's see who's inside at the top mark.
Mm-hmm.
Ben was watching the coronation on his iPhone 10, right? The coronation was at 0300 here. No sail racing coverage comes even remotely close to how damn good this SailGP production is, Stingray say. Agreed, Stingray. It is good. Good evening, Tom and Julia. Wasn't SailGP fun? Graham Sweeney saying, yep, replying to Ted Ryman, trying to lip read. Yeah, okay, there's some great comments. Alistair Murray's comment, their starting is unbelievable. Nice job by Ben on Saturday. Tom did a great job in Ben at the start, but then showed he is human by letting the pressure getting to him in the final and tacking too fast coming off the foils. Yeah, he explained that, Alistair, in the press conference, that he was more interested in covering than worrying about tacking in a particular place with enough breeze that they didn't risk maybe having some falling briefly off the foils. But they still talk too much. Yeah, Baton Rouge says. Nice to see in motion enthusiasm. What other comments here? Yeah, except the commentators. Commentary is croutonic. Alistair Murray agrees. Shut the front door.
Yeah.
Shut the fudge. Mackinac fudge. Never underestimate the intelligence of your audience. Exactly right, Jonathan Frank. David James, I'm not too certain you can have commentary that works for both. Yes, you can. And with respect, I did it, Julia, at the Yacht Club.
You did.
I did the commentary up there, and we got, half that club are senior, serious, great racing sailors.
Mm-hmm.
And you have one of my co-commentators was Dr. Paul Heineken, past Commodore Paul Heineken,
right,
who was doing kind of the high-end color analysis.
Right.
And I'm doing, the wind's coming over the left side. That means you're on port tack. Port tack has to give right away over the boat.
You were really good at that.
So, you can do that. And P.J. Montgomery, yes, Julie Aarons, absolutely right. P.J. could show enthusiasm and of course, he's a pro from way, way back, many different sports, but loves our beloved sport. And he, better than anybody, could do that, do it in a way that the non-sailing crowd could understand. And also, high drama on Hauraki Gulf. You say that once,
yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
High drama on Hauraki Gulf.
Yep.
And that brings everyone's attention back. You don't have to sit there then and prattle on like it's the Kentucky Derby.
I know.
I mean, the Kentucky Derby is only a minute and a half long, right?
That's right.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
2 minutes long.
Two. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
No.
In any event, I agree, it's the best thing in the sport. Now, I've got 2 more videotape excerpts that they supplied, and this is the start. And I may let's play it once through, and then maybe I'll go back and play it all the way. The start of the...
Watch for the line to turn right. How's your timing? We go in the $1 million race here in San Francisco. What a start. Australia and New Zealand perfect. It's New Zealand with a slightly faster angle to Mark 1, but Slingsby's going to be holding on the inside, and he will control things at Mark 1.
See, none of that was at all. I'm going to go back. And none of that, they're talking about the $1 million race and how exciting. None of that is analyzing what's going on here, which, if you'll forgive me, as I think I can click through this right now in the pre-start, you see that, first of all, the Kiwis had gone out and done a couple 3 practice time starts to the start and over to that first mark. We watched that from St. Francis, and I commented on it. Look at this. He's the only team that's out there early doing this. Everyone else, they kind of hung out over in front of the Adrenaline Lounge, which was on the north-south shore, and then came over here and then just one-tacked it and went in. They came from, let me go back to the screen. They came from the north side of the race course, the south side of the race course, came over to the north side of the race course, tacked, and that was the strategy that most everybody used. But what Ben set up early, and that what Tommy did, he came over here and first of all faced Ben, which was really a clever move. He's now gassing him. He's slowing him down. They're going to be late to the line, as you'll see. Then he goes over and attacks the Kiwis. And it was brilliant. I mean, it was just really brilliant. Let's see if we can start this and watch this. How do I get this thing going?
Best two starts are going to be New Zealand and Australia for here. Watch for the line to turn right. How's your timing? We go in the $1 million race here in San Francisco.
He goes over and attacks him, and now it's who's got the better angle. Well,
What a start, Australia and New
the
Zealand.
Australians have got the
New
better
Zealand with
angle.
a slightly faster angle to Mark 1, but Slingsby's going to be on the holding on the inside.
Well, this
He
guy's
will
saying the
control
Kiwis have a
things at
better
Mark
angle,
1.
and they didn't. It was
Yeah.
coming up from below. It's got a little faster angle. Tommy played it, as you all know, beautifully, perfectly.
Absolute drag race
Now,
for $1 million. The two-time
I'm going to go
reigning
back. This thing, this you needed when they played. They gave us this highlight video, but it needed to start about 15 seconds before this, because they've already rounded, as you can see here. They've already rounded the so-called speed mark, and now they're on their blast reach across to the finish line in front of our club and in front of the Adrenaline Lounge. So what's going on here? Just before, we had the longer video, just before they got to this mark, Tommy comes in on port, tacks right in front of the Kiwis. The Kiwis can't get the overlap to leeward. If they'd gotten the overlap to leeward, they would have borne away, and the Kiwis probably would have won it. Tom had a pretty good lead up that last beat coming from Alcatraz up to this mark. But he covered, and he, as he said in the press conference, and I said on our commentary, hey, he's tacking in a light air spot. That's probably not the most auspicious place to tack, but he's still staying between his closest opponent and that next mark, which paid off. I mean, he won. Didn't win by much, and he risked being overrun by the Kiwis, but it was cool, and everybody's heart stopped.
Yes.
Right
absolute drag race
at the
for
moment
$1 million.
before this video
The two-time reigning
started.
and defending champions. They can see the finish line. The checkered flag is there. The Kiwis are going to run out of water. The Australian dynasty is still intact, and the three-peat is now complete.
Okay. So it was fun.
It was.
Julia, you had fun.
Indeed.
And everybody, I guarantee you that in the club at St. Francis, people were saying this, what's the old Eagle song, partying like it was 1969. It was the best atmosphere. The place was electric. It was both Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
And the place was packed.
Yeah.
All the rooms public, and there were a couple of private parties there with sponsors and so on.
And all the parking lots.
The parking is another issue, but it's always a mess during a big event. But man, was that cool and fantastic. And racing sailors and non-racing sailors alike really enjoyed it. A lot of kids there, junior sailors, and so on. And so it was good fun. It was a good event. We'll quickly go to comments. Prince, 1999. That commentary is cringy. I hope you're not talking about mine, Paul. Don't get excited, Mark Huss. Hi, Mark. Don't get excited. It won't help in the next AC. Exactly. Lots of comments here. Peter Taylor saying Stephen McIver think the last AC has selected all of these commentators. The commentator in the stands last year in SF was clueless as well. At least no whales on the course, or if there were, they didn't tell us. And remember, those commentators are in London. They're in the television studio in London watching the feed coming, so they don't quite have the same. I'm up on the race deck at St. Francis and can take in the whole ambiance, and I can see the water, the pressure on the water, and we can see the tide lines, and plus we know what the hell we're talking about. That's another issue.
Never mind.
Slingsby is so fat and exactly right. The other thing, Steve Gruber, is he flies the boat down, bow down, and of course, by flying the boat bow down, you present, as we said on the show on Friday, less windage. It's a better windage profile. But if you are, and the flight controller is really crucial, as is the wing trimmer. They've all got to do this together. As I said, these boats are extremely difficult to sail by all accounts, not just what Russell says. So if you fly with the bow down, and you saw that in the Cup here in 2013, you saw it in the Cup in Bermuda, but flying with the bow down, they've all figured this out. But if you fly too low, the rudders come up out of the water, and the T-foil on the bottom of the rudder comes up on the water, and you see the crashes that we see too many of in foiling boats when people are not correct. So the other thing, and I kept saying this at St. Francis, you have to realize that Tom Slingsby, especially downwind, is consistently a click or two faster, whatever a click or two is. But I mean, he is just a click or two faster downwind, especially. And the Kiwis, witness what we saw on that last windward leg before they turned the white box mark and came the white mark. I shouldn't call it a box mark, but they look like boxes.
Yeah.
Before they turned the white mark, the Kiwis looked to be consistently a click or two faster upwind. So that's, I think, what you saw as much as anything. The accordion effect, as we would say, or the concertina effect, as those of you in Europe would call it, which again makes for exciting racing. So all in all, I had a blast. I think people who were watching at St. Francis had a blast. I hope those of you watching on the tube had a blast. Stingray tells me this morning, Julia,
Yes.
that it was on YouTube and it was not geo-blocked here in the U.S.
Oh.
So you could watch it on the app, apparently. You could watch it on YouTube. Problem was, it's 40. I told Stingray this. He doesn't know. He's up in Seattle.
Right.
But it was running 45 seconds behind real time. By the time they send the signal, send it to London, that's being bounced presumably off the satellite. Then they process it in London, switch the show. They probably add some seconds, a 10-second to bleep if somebody says an F-bomb or something, a streaker, or they have some huge technical problem, or a whale, so whatever something happens they don't want to show. And then they send it back to YouTube. And right now I can tell you we are looking at we are 25, we're only 6 seconds behind on YouTube right now.
Well, that's good.
If I look at that's one of the reasons I have this time clock up here, is that that's showing the time that you all are seeing it. And the time that I'm seeing it is only 7 seconds. So on my phone here where I'm watching. Okay, enough of all that nerdy, geeky stuff. We're going to have some nerdy, geeky stuff here later in the show, Julia. This is a segment we're going to dedicate to you and to Stingray and Clark Chapin, the nerdy geeks we've got. Okay, any other SailGP comments? Julie Aarons is pointing out exactly right that Slingsby stayed between the Kiwis and the finish line. Great race. Yeah, it was good match racing.
Yes.
And we had the prediction. I had a couple of good sailors that, I put the mic in, as anybody comes in a meter or two of me up there on the race deck, and there were hundreds of people, but anybody I recognized as a good sailor, hey, come over here and get the mic in their face and ask them, what do you think of this or that, which involves the whole audience like we involve our Fozy here with the comments. So it was good fun. Steve Gruber's put it succinctly, less rudders in the water, less drag, but is riskier indeed. Stingray, there are over 30 things to synchronize through maneuvers. Oz has a fantastically experienced crew. And Julie Aaron's also saying that Slingsby and his team they not only had the fastest boat, they read the wind better. I'm not so sure about reading the wind better. I think all three of those guys are pretty darn good, and their crews are pretty darn good. What's a click in knots? Jonathan Frank. What's a click in kilometers per hour?
Yeah, it's a secret.
Yeah, it just just a click. Okay, the non-technical definition of a click is the amount that is noticeable at whatever speed. If you're watching two boats, in the old days, two 12 meters going upwind, and if you could notice that one was pointing a little higher or one was pointing a lower, the ability to differentiate that is he's a click higher. Now, if it's heaps higher, that's a sailing technical term. He's heaps higher, or he's heaps faster. But a click faster is just enough to be noticeable. How's that for it? We've just defined click here, not click. Here, any comment on the F1? The damn Dutch seem fast. Yeah, David James. I was preparing for the commentary, so that was in the 2 hours before we went live here in San Francisco. But now, guys, the 30-minute intros are hard to watch. Several of you have made that comment. And what they're talking about, Julia, is that the TV window for SailGP is 2 hours.
Yeah.
So they started the TV at 2 p.m., our local time, 1400, and they went off the air at 1600, 4 o'clock. And in the first half hour, they're showing what happened the day before. They're doing some, some commercials. It's, they're showing what's going on. But it's sort of like a pre-show. I mean, what we watched last night, the horrific game of the Warriors and the Lakers, our basketball team, the Golden State Warriors lost in a close one to the LA Lakers. But, we watched the pre-race show.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason I do a morning show at Gov Cup. Everybody's interested in a pre-race show. Not everybody, but some people are interested in the pre-race show to see who's who, what's happened yesterday, setting the stage, if you will, for today's racing. And if you don't want to watch that half hour, you can, go, empty the dishwasher or, go take a powder or do what you want. And then everybody knows the racing starts at 2:30. I guess everybody knew. I certainly did. So you come back and watch at 2:30, 2:35, 2:34, whenever the race started. Nobody watches a post-race show, or you have to be a real fan to watch a post-race show. So that's why I don't think they run much of a post-race show. As soon as the race is over, they do this, maybe an interview with the sailor if they have time, and yada yada, and they get off the air. Okay, enough of all that. I saw a photo of Stingray saying of the line into the event and the grandstands looks like it was well attended. I don't think it was as well attended as Christchurch was, but it was there was a good crowd in the Adrenaline Lounge and in the grandstands. Baton Rouge says he watched on YouTube Live the 30-minute intros. Yeah, okay, I was just commenting on that. Yep, watched it live for free on YouTube and live feeds by Facebook phone feeds. Okay. Higher and faster is always good. Yeah, well, or downwind, lower and faster is good. I hate the scavenger hunt. What does that mean, Steve Gruber? Is it a killick? No. Okay, Graham Sweeney. No, it's a click. And it's not click like short for kilometer, like Europeans and American militaries call a click. A kilometer, a click. I, in fact, still do. I like the pre-show for the Kentucky Derby. You get to meet the jockeys and see the horses. In sailing, it is a real yawn. Well, Julie and anybody else who's saying that, it must have been, I didn't watch it. It must have been a real yawn, or else you all wouldn't be agreeing. But you got to do something to set the stage, and I'm afraid they just don't know how to produce a pre-show. So I think the other thing that the pre-show needs, and they've done this at some of the events, Julia, and Julie, they used to have a panel, 2 or 3 locals, kind of sideline type reporters, as we think of in our professional sports, who were discussing the conditions, sitting at a table in the corner of the Adrenaline Lounge, looking out on the race course and saying, "Oh, they're here, they're coming out, they're doing this," and it lent an immediacy to the television show. And I think this pre-show is largely pre-taped, and they're in London, and it's not
That's still hard for them too.
Graham Sweeney watched it on YouTube. The intro goes on way too long. It's no build up. It's a bore. Okay, there's something wrong with that. And when I write Russell, I'll say that my esteemed and erudite, knowledgeable Fozy think that it is the pre-show is croutonic. New York Times. Okay, you're back. The Kentucky Derby hats and coronation. You think the SailGP needs, Julia, the SailGP need a segment on hats.
Yes.
Everybody wears a baseball cap. It's what's on the baseball cap that's maybe not so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, enough. Let's move on. Thanks, SailGP. Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Larry Ellison, for putting the hundreds of millions. I've done a back of the envelope. I think he's put over $1 billion into the sport since, forgetting about Sayonara, his maxi that he campaigned for years. Since he got involved in the America's Cup 2003, the first campaign I did with him, I think he's put upwards to, if not north of $1 billion. And Russell, I think, is doing a terrific job. Not perfect, but I disagree with him on any number of things. He would disagree certainly with me, wouldn't you?
Yes. You
disagree with me all day, every day.
Oh, not all day, but I do disagree.
All day, every day.
I know.
Okay, thanks, SailGP. Congratulations. There's some nice pictures here at the end that they sent around, some that I grabbed.
Yeah.
And they should. We need an official cocktail for. I guess it depends on who the purveyor is. I would sure love to have the names for these folks. one of you Aussies or somebody, I'll write to Slingers and try to get it from him. Stingray saying he's so looking forward to season 4.
Which starts in a minute.
Yeah, it starts in June in Chicago. We'll come to that. Here's the final standings for this season 3. And, of course, Australia on top of the 104 points. Kiwis, the Brits, the French, Canadians. Denmark, Jimmy Spithill. I thought he would maybe climb up to 5th overall, but he had arguably a less auspicious regatta than the previous 2 or 3. And the Swiss, who after day 1, they had a pretty good day 1, and then they didn't do so well after that.
Didn't they have a
we think they had a mechanical. Yeah, we think they had a problem. But the Spanish, those 2 new teams, they need some help to get themselves up to speed. And there will be a 10th team apparently next year. Now, is this a beautiful shot or what?
Mm-hmm.
This is the undercard. This is the preliminary rounds, if it's a boxing match. And the headline this morning was World's Best Young Sailors crowned at SailGP's WASP Grand Final Championship of Champions. They brought the top teams from around the world, either because they have a team from that country, that is a SailGP team, or they had an event in that country, and there were these kids sailing around in the WASPs. They had a bunch of races right out front. And according to the website, the best young male and female sailing athletes in the world, I think that's a bit of a stretch, but have been crowned WASP Grand Final winners at the SailGP Inspire Championship of Champions in San Francisco Bay. New Zealand's Stella Bilger and Galvin Ball of the U.S. were crowned the top female and male athletes, respectively, after going head-to-head against the winners from each qualifying event. Previous event this season, in this 2022 and 2023. So here are these kids. We watched them both Saturday and Sunday racing again, right? That's the Adrenaline Lounge in the background. And then that's just to the east of St. Francis. This is a woman, Ms. Bilger, who staked a definitive victory with an impressive 19-point lead on runner-up Rachel Betschart from Bermuda, I guess you'd pronounce that. And she, of course, being a Kiwi. That's a Kiwi flag. Yes, that's the Kiwi flag. Hold it. Let's look at this again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, New Zealand Stella Bilger. Okay, because the Aussie flag's got the Southern Cross on it. So there she is. Bravo Zulu. And this is I thought the Brit actually had won because he seemed to win a lot of races on Sunday, but apparently in the lead up, this gentleman, Mr. Ball, won overall from the U.S., finishing 9 points ahead of Duncan Gregor from the U.K. So that's fine. We know the kid's name from the U.K., who won a bunch of races on Sunday at least, but apparently not the overall. Bravo Zulu to both of them. And I hope they're getting a lot of good publicity back in their respective countries.
Yes.
This is the upcoming season. Starts, as Julia said, in just a month's time, the 16th to the 17th of June. SailGP Season 4 gets underway in Chicago. And if you look at this, they this year have 12 events. Chicago, then back here to SoCal, LA in July. Mid of July, then Saint-Tropez, middle of September, so nothing in August. Get over to Europe. Then Toronto, where they've run a couple of events before in September, late September, so 2 events in September. Then they're down in Andalusia, Cadiz in October. Take November, December off, and they go to the UAE, country not yet named, middle of January. Sydney, middle of February, late February. Auckland, late March. And then Bermuda, Canada, New York. So there's actually 4 events in the U.S. I can back that graphic off. In May of next year, June. And here now, Julia, will be much better in July because it'll be warmer and windier.
Wait, I was going to say in windier.
It'll be a lot windier. Our windy months here are July, August, June, July, August. typically, because the Central Valley heats up, the air rises, sucks the cool air in off the Pacific.
Yeah.
And remember, it's only 55, 60 degrees. The water's cold out there, and it gets to be 100 plus Fahrenheit in the Central Valley where they grow all the fruits and vegetables. And you think the fruits and vegetables are here in San Francisco. They're actually grown in the Central Valley.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
I made that joke. It got a huge laugh at St. Francis
It did.
on Sunday, didn't I?
Yep.
Season 4 starts in Chicago in just over a month. We'll be following it. You all seem to like SailGP a lot, and we appreciate any interest, any indications of interest of support or otherwise that you care to give us by direct DM, direct message, or in the comments. Where does Gavin Ball hail from? I don't know where in the U.S. Steve Atkins, that is a good question. Thank you for that. We'll find that out and let you know on Friday if somebody doesn't put it in the comments now. Yeah, great backflip off the Wasp by Gavin. Indeed, all the kids, you probably didn't see it except on that, they covered it on the tube, but we were watching all the kids. They'd come in. It was terrific, Julia. You saw it because you had the front and center seat there. The kids would come in. Photographers would kind of line them up so they could shoot up toward the Adrenaline Lounge or up toward St. Francis where all the people were on the race deck. And then the kids would backflip off when they'd hold the boat, and there was all this gyration. Yeah. It was great fun.
It was fun.
Rick Bannerow is right. I'm reminded now because Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston put up a post. And yes, young Mr. Gavin Ball is from Hawaii. Thank you, Rick Bannerow. You've reminded us correctly. Fog Machine saying it will not be warm in San Francisco in July. Well, it is. It's warm in the morning before the sea breeze comes in. Then it gets cold. But typically in the afternoons, when it starts, as he says, blowing dogs off chains or oysters off rocks, we get 25 to sometimes 30 knots, right?
Yeah.
In July.
But the only thing you can be sure of, it will not be tropical.
Well, it won't be tropical. It's never tropical. I like this climate.
I know you do.
I like it. You like Hawaii. I like it here. It's never too hot, never too cold. But remember, I grew up in Michigan, where it's always too cold or too hot.
Yes.
I mean, it's hot and humid, and the mosquitoes are the state bird in Michigan. Okay, Bravo Zulu to Tommy Slingsby and to his whole team. Let's stick to Australia for a minute. We've got, first in a while, we've got an A4, Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, and he is on tour in Australia as DBA president of Sailing Australia. Have a look.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. It's an early morning here in Brisbane, and as you can see, I'm standing in front of the Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron. I just thought I'd check in and say hello from Northern Queensland, or from Northern Australia. I'm doing my round of the sailing summits, which I'd mentioned to you, Tom. These are an extension of the international sailing summits that you and I were part of back 20 years or so, and we've chosen to use the name as we continue to roll out the sailing message here in Australia. So I'm going to I'm doing the Brisbane one, which I did yesterday. Actually, I'm off to Perth next week. We've done Adelaide. I'm going to Sydney the week after that, Tasmania the following one, and then Melbourne. So we're doing the whole round of Australia and really enjoying connecting with people. So we get about, we've got 360 clubs in Australia and 70 class associations, and we invite all of them. So we expect about 500 or 600 people to attend over the next 6 weeks. They're a tremendous opportunity to get together with all of the people that volunteer to put on these all the great sailing events around Australia. So of significance yesterday, I guess we had a great day. We had 50-50 male-female attendance, and I think that's a very significant development here in Australia. We have 5 women on the Australian Sailing Board and 4 men. My vice president is a woman. I went out for dinner last night with the Yachting Queensland, which is the state board, and we had, I think there's 6 people on that board, 5 women and 1 man, with the president being a woman, and 3 of the women on the board are younger than 30. So it's an amazing revolution, and they are all fantastic, committed, enthusiastic sailors, which is wonderful. Probably the only other thing that I'd mention is that yes, I did workshop the whole Etchells discussion, about it just not being okay, the sort of behaviour we see at some regattas, and asking men to call it out when they see it. And there was fantastic support for my message on that one. Probably the only other thing I'd mention is that Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron here, which I'll just pan around and show you, this is just part of it. I'll take you I'll just a very brief walk. I'll just see whether we can see something off in the distance. But this yacht club has everything, I can tell you. Way off in the distance. So to summarise it, it's got 4,500 members, making it the biggest serious yacht club in Australia. We've got one in Sydney that's got 16,000, but 15,500 of those joined to play the poker machines, and they don't own a pair of boat shoes between them. But this is the motel in the background. So the yacht club has accommodation on site, which is where I stayed last night and the night before. There's the Sailing Academy behind me, which is where they teach young people and older people to sail. This is the clubhouse, which is just a fantastic setup. And behind us, and behind me, I have the hard stand, the dinghy launching area, heaps of trailer sailors, a very, very large marina, all the facilities you'd ever want on probably the biggest footprint I can think of any yacht club I've been in the world. So here in Australia, we have 4 yacht clubs that are Tier 1 yacht clubs, we regard as being the highest. Well, they're the ones that Australian Sailing charges the most to be members of. And just so you know, they're Royal Queensland Yacht Squadron, where I am now, Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, CYCA, and the Sandringham Yacht Club, my own club in Melbourne. Anyway, folks, that's just me checking in. I might check in with you from each of the other states that I visit over the next 6 weeks, because this is the a road show right now, where I'm on the road seeing lots and lots of sailors around the country. Cheers, folks. Bye.
I don't know if Alistair is watching, but Ed Worley's wondering, are those kookaburras in the background, what the birds are?
Doesn't sound like kookaburras.
You would know. You spent a lot of time in Australia.
Yeah.
I just love hearing about other countries, about yacht clubs in other countries, and how many sailing shows, live or otherwise, get the president of a national authority on regularly.
Yes.
Not only watching, but I mean reporting in, like
Yes.
Alistair does.
It's terrific.
Sailing Australia. Terrific guy that he is. Look at the smile on that guy's face.
Yeah.
You know he's having fun.
Yes.
And as Rick Bannerow, who's on here, will know, we've had Alistair and Rick and I are having this ongoing conversation. We are monitoring the Etchell situation from Miami, the Worlds a few weeks back, when the lady, apparently, because we don't know, I'll take the editor of Scuttlebutt's word for it when he says he knows her, knows who she is, wrote the letter in saying, I was sexually harassed at the Worlds in Miami. And I think what Alistair's doing is exactly the right response. That is, they are messaging it after Rick and Alistair and I had that long back and forth over several days email exchange, Julia, as you know. And he is saying, at each of these stops around Australia, among other things, they're talking about the Olympics, they're talking about promoting sailing, they're talking about best practices at the yacht clubs, et cetera. But he's also, as you heard him say in this report, they're messaging, saying, this is not acceptable. And men, we have to step up, not only to have proper behavior, but when we see it, we all have to step up and say, maybe we need Julia to go around the world, wave your finger at these guys.
Yeah.
I like your response too, Julia. Reprise your response if somebody were coming after you at a.
Oh yeah, it always works.
How do you handle it?
With you? Are you kidding? What in the world thinks that I might do with you? And everybody goes sort of back. It's sort of fun.
Maybe we can record you doing just that. And we'll offer it up for anybody, put it on their phone, and somebody comes up to them, male or female. Men get harassed, but not nearly as much. And we have you're recording, Julie, on their phone.
Are you kidding?
But Ed Worley's right. See something, say something, do something. Absolutely right. And I salute Alistair for his approach on this, going around and messaging it in fact, just the idea of the president of their NGB, I'm sure this happens in other countries, but going around to the states, they have state sailing federations, and going to their meetings, having a summit, and comparing notes.
Yes.
I just think this is great. I wish the president of our sailing federation would do the same thing.
Yes.
It's a little bigger country. Well, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's no bigger country. But they
Yeah.
they don't have. They're not as spread out as we are. They don't have a bunch of sailors in Denver and a bunch of Texas and a bunch in Chicago.
Yeah.
You go to the capital cities more or less
Right.
in those states, and you can gather the sailors around for the most part.
I just have an aside because I was at least representing Australia at the GP because I had a Royal Prince Alfred jacket on.
You did on Sunday at St.
On
Francis.
Sunday, and I think I'm the only person there who was thinking about Australia.
Well, there were some Australians cheering for Tommy Slingsby, and there were some Americans cheering for Tommy Slingsby.
Yeah.
But you were the only authentic Australian in your Royal Prince Alfred jacket. And everybody asked you, "What's that?
Signaling.
What's that, Burgee? What is that on there?"
Signaling, yeah.
I'm an Aussie today. This is something a non-sailing sea. Good point, Peter Taylor. Yeah. But it's still more authentic when it's a sailing CEO. Replying to Graham Sweeney, khaki shorts and shirt, jacket, and tie for everyone. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, when a man is doing the harassing, an actual man needs to tell him it's not okay. I've done this, Steve Gruber. Bravo, Zulu.
Yeah.
Steve. A finger-waving sailing T-shirt with the SI logo. Julia, you could produce that.
Okay.
Joe Cool's great idea. And Graham Sweeney saying, bring back dress codes for evening. Well, that's up to each club and up to each class. We don't want to specify that here, but we do want to thank. What? Where's my? I want to go out.
Oops.
I want to. Why does that quit? I want to
G'day, Tom.
click on that. There we go. Oh, it just ends. There's a transition error. I apologize for that. We usually go out with Alistair and with Waltzing Matilda and A, but I've got something croutonic here in the slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom Slingsby, I love that smile. And let's give you a cup date, not talking about Jeddah, thank you. AC-37 cup date. And the first piece of news is this nosedive. These boats are something else. I hope somebody is going to start keeping score for us on these nosedives, both in the, as this is the AC-72s, or AC-75s actually. AC-72 were here in San Francisco back in 2013. But also the AC-40s and the LEQ, less than or equal to 12, which means 12 meters. But this is the Swiss, Alinghi, a couple days ago, and here's the video. Stingray saying that one of the Alinghi cyclers got thrown in this incident, was injured, but thankfully will be okay.
I hadn't heard that.
So cool, wondering if they need ska bows like the mini Transat boats. You can see what it did to their jib. That was a bit of a, you can see here in this next photo. That is, it's not a huge loss, but the jib's wrecked, and they've got plenty of others. What other comments here? Are we still on Alinghi? All stop, man the pumps. The submariner, James Frederick Bland, retired naval officer here from this country. Okay, so they're talking about President Trump and the civil suit against Trump. That Julia, you were reading this ahead of time. He got found guilty of rape.
No.
What? Of what?
Of
Harassment.
Yeah.
Okay, he'll appeal it. That's not over, but yeah, I mean, he's a crouton. Anybody that talks about what he did in that bus with that reporter, none of us is perfect, least of all me. But you can't. You got to be proper. Looks like Stevie Nicks diving into a pile of coke at the after party. Rick Panero. I don't think he went through the jib, did he, Stingray? The Cyclor didn't go through the jib, I hope not. Assault. Okay, sexual assault was the charge. Battery and harassment and defamation, the jury found against the former president, Trump. Okay, come on, no politics. Yeah, well, okay, but it's an interesting development, I suppose, and we won't talk about it. We'll go back to talking about sailing. Now, one of the interesting things to point out that Richard Gladwell pointed out is, and this is what the teams do. On one tack, they try one set of foils. That's a Kiwi set of foils on the right, typical of what Team New Zealand has been using. And the foils on the left are more typical of what the Americans have been using, with some dihedral, down angle. And we shall see some more, but in the meantime, we have a video of the Italians, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, taking their brand new AC40, just splashed, out for a spin. Have a look. Okay, well, that was a bit of an unceremonious end to that not very interesting video. I don't know why I played that, except that, we
haven't heard very much from him.
Exactly, Julie. We haven't shown any love to LRPP in a while, so I thought we'd play their video. Meanwhile, we haven't shown much love to the French either, and they put out a press release today. The Orient Express Racing, nice graphics, nice press release.
Yeah.
The official, as opposed to, I suppose, to the unofficial French challenger. That their Youth and America's Cup team selections, the first round, are complete, and each group of candidates gathered in Quiberon for 4 days to take part in a series of activities under the watchful eye of officials from the French Sailing Federation, the Team France Association, whatever that is, and Orient Express, maybe Andrew Pindar knows, and Orient Express Racing Team, including skipper Quentin Delapierre and Franck Camas. I'll tell you what, I think part of the reason I stuck this in is I think these folks are doing a hell of a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And this team doesn't have a snowball's chance in the Cup, I don't think. I mean, they don't. But their women's and youth teams maybe are going to be quite good. So here is a video of what they're doing in French, but with subtitles.
America's Cup. Ambitieux, passion, performance, excellence, innovation, rêve, prestigieux, challenge et victoire.
On est en train de faire une sélection pour la Youth America's Cup. Notre objectif, c'était de sélectionner une vingtaine de jeunes et pendant 3 jours, leur faire passer des tests physiques, des tests sur l'eau, des tests psychomoteurs, des entrevues, des entretiens pour voir un petit peu leur motivation. Et puis on a pris la crème de la jeunesse au niveau voile en France.
I mean, look at this. Classroom learning. Here's Quentin.
Bonne carrière, qui ont des titres sur les catégories jeunes, qui sont en train de performer sur les catégories seniors. Et dans cette présélection, il y a beaucoup d'expériences différentes et de parcours différents. Ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, ils sont ici dans cette sélection et c'est avant tout parce qu'ils sont très bons.
Ils vont naviguer sur un bateau qui s'appelle l'AC40. C'est une coupe de l'América pour les jeunes en dessous de 25 ans.
On a besoin d'avoir des gens qui sont très autonomes dans leur poste, avec un très haut niveau de compétences.
Okay, you get the idea here. I'm going to pot this down and let the video roll for a sec, but I think this is impressive, and I think these teams will be good. I think this is good for France. I think it's good for the sport. And we shall see how this all plays out for these two teams.
Le vent s'est levé un peu, on a pu faire des courses sympas.
Sur cette journée, j'ai essayé de voir un petit peu l'aisance des candidats sur le support. J'essaie aussi de voir un petit peu leur potentiel de progression et essayer de voir s'il y a une bonne communication ou si sur le bateau ça part en vrille.
Yeah, I agree, Ed Worley. I think this is a really good video. And I hope the other teams, the other countries that are putting youth and women's teams together will do something similar, because this is a great opportunity to promote, isn't it, Julia?
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
Yes, and I'm a great fan of the French sailing operation anyway.
Well, it's government supported. I mean, it really is like a lot of things in France, it's centralized under the government, their whole Ministry of Sport, Education, Youth, whatever it's called. This is this guy, Quentin Delapierre, who was sailing their SailGP boat here this weekend. Cool stuff.
C'était cool, on a réussi à voler et à faire des bons bords sous Spi, sous Genac, où ça allait assez vite.
Il y a des candidats qui se débrouillent super bien, qui arrivent à prendre leur marque très vite. On voit des belles choses sur le...
Okay, enough of all this. Here's their youth team that has been nominated so far. And this will be getting cut down here by the end of the year when they have to nominate the final, what is it, 6. So the youth team, the women's team, and on December 31st, their press release today said the final selection of the 6 youth and female sailors who will make up the respective squads will be submitted to the America's Cup event organizer. So
that's great.
It is. Bravo Zulu to the French. And to that team, I don't need to say it again. I think they're going to have a pretty good squad, both the women and the youth.
Yes.
Coming from France. Julia?
Do we know why they're youths and not men?
Well, because they have to be under 23. That's a real youth team.
Yeah.
So, sorry, did I misunderstand what you said?
Aren't there no women on the...
Well, I think actually there are women on the youth team.
Oh, that's
And
why.
then there's a separate women's team. Okay, I understand your question.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, you've heard our theme song for this day in history. What happened, Julia, this day in history, the 9th of May, 1941, and if anybody gets it from this first clue, you're a genius. That or you cheated. Do you recognize this ship on this day, the 9th of May, 1941, which is part of the story, a big part of the story? That is a German ship called München, or Munich.
Yeah.
And it's a German weather ship.
Aha.
No, Fritz Mueller, it wasn't VE Day, though it's close. It's related. It's not Dunkirk, Fog Machine asking. Here's your next clue. Those of you who are Brits will know this. I suspect some of you will. This is your second clue. Anybody now know what we're talking about? What happened on this day in 1941?
It looks like the hotel that's outside London.
Well, it looks like a lot of different hotels. That is captured in the Arctic. No, another bloody spy ship. There, Gordon Smith's got it. Ed Worley's got it. Bletchley Park in Great Britain. Does that help? Yes, Rick Bannerow's got it. Breaking the code. He's broken the code on what is today Enigma, broken the code, captured an Enigma machine. No, I think we'll give the credit today to Rick Bannerow, who said breaking the code. Well, at Bletchley Park, which is an English country house, Julia.
Yep.
And it's still today, I think it's used for information gathering. It's an estate in Bletchley, Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire, that became the principal center of Allied code breaking during the Second War. The mansion was constructed during the years following 1883, so it's an old Victorian place for the financier and politician Sir Herbert Leon in the Victorian Gothic, Tudor, and Dutch Baroque styles. Wow. On the site of older buildings of the same name.
It looks like a place I went to for a conference.
Yeah, but you went to lots of places for conferences outside of London. Maybe you were there.
Yeah.
Maybe you were there breaking the codes in 1941.
Oh, yes, I was.
So were you 8 years old then? 3 years old, 2 years old. 1941, you were born in 39.
Yeah, right.
You weren't there breaking the codes. Maybe you were. Though, of course, the rest of you will know this gentleman, Alan Turing, lived a short life, 1912, 1954. Took his own life, apparently. with an apple laced with cyanide. That, of course, is the Enigma, the German coding machine. The Enigma, and Turing was a highly influential computer scientist and cryptanalyst, who developed the Turing machine, one of the most important theoretical models of a computer in this big vacuum tubes, huge heat. In this regard, he is considered to be the father of artificial intelligence. Imagine that.
Good for him.
And of computer science. During World War II, working at the UK's code-breaking headquarters at Bletchley Park, the aforementioned. Here he played a pivotal role in breaking coded German messages through the Enigma machine, many of which helped the Allies, get this, if you believe it, win several crucial battles. One estimate puts the number of lives saved by Turing and the rest of there, a lot of people, there, a lot of women worked there, at as many as 14 million lives saved.
Wow.
So on this day in 1941 at Bletchley Park, the British intelligence, aided by a few other countries, broke the German spy codes after capturing an Enigma machine that were aboard, I guess plural, machines, aboard the weather ship München. That's how that ship tied in there at the beginning of this day in history. And it's nautical. It's, kind of naval.
It is.
Now, speaking of that, we have a new segment. I thought following right on to that, we should have a new segment. We're going to call this Nav Station, or News for Nerds. And Julia, we're going to dedicate this to you, Clark Chapin, Stingray, and all the other nerds that are on here. We got a lot of techie, nerdy, geeky type people on here, but I think this is cool. And we're not every show, but from time to time when we have something interesting. Run a segment. This is a photo from the 2020 Vendée. It's Isabel Jaschka, actually speaking of Munich, born in München, in Munich, Germany, and is, I think, of a German mother and a French father, or vice versa. And a Ronan Gladue photo. There he is. And by the way, he is the OBR on Biotherm. So he's taking some of those great images. So I thought that was a nice tie-in. So the question today, speaking of nerdy, geeky news, there is our beloved Earth.
Oh, are those the new satellite?
That is the question. How many Starlink satellites are there now orbiting Mother Earth?
64.
64? You're off by quite a few.
Yeah.
As of May 2023, Starlink consists of over 4,000 mass-produced small satellites in low Earth orbit, which communicate with designated ground transceivers. In total, nearly 12,000 satellites are planned to be deployed, with a possible later extension to 42,000. SpaceX, which of course is Mr. Elon Musk, in Musk we trust, announced reaching more than 1 million subscribers just a few months ago in December of 2022. That is a typical maritime antenna, and there's a much bigger one that John Sangmeister was telling me about this morning. Starlink Maritime, global maritime coverage for boats of all sizes with up to 220 megabits per second down while at sea. And we have maybe 4 times that here coming in via cable connection. But look at the uplink speed. I was amazed by the uplink. Yeah. They've got a pretty decent uplink speed, kind of matching what we have here, 20 megabits per second. And starting at only $250 a month with a one-time hardware cost of $2,500, which is pretty astonishing when you think about it. What's this world coming to? And of course, it's making a big difference in maritime, also in fighting wars and in places that that don't have electric and internet service, like some parts of the world, including Africa and so on. This is a photo from our Fozy, aforementioned, John Sangmeister, his boat Rock and Roll, the Andrew 68, and he now has an even bigger antenna than this one, and he's getting 177 megabits down and 13 megabits up. That's his own speed test right there, with not too much latency, only 29 milliseconds of latency. Thank you, Julia. And John texted this morning to say it's good to 50 degrees of heat. This is not a commercial for this Starlink. Good to 50 degrees of healing angle. The old days of Inmarsat, my data bill with the race and delivery, meaning Transpac, could touch $10,000 for just 10 gigabits of data. We're going to purchase the 1 terabyte plan for 1 month for, again, this upcoming Transpac for $1,000 and stream the entire race like the movie Ted. John Sangman. So what do you think of that, Julia?
I think that's fabulous.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Starlink on Fozy, John Sangmeister's, Andrew 68. Thanks, John, for that information. I thought that was a pretty cool way to start our News for Nerds. We're going to call that the nav station. I don't know what's that. I thought it had a good follow-through. Fog Machine saying the captured Enigma was from a submarine. I'm not sure that's true. I think that was from, according to all my sources this morning, it was from that weather ship. München. The Mosley family took delivery of their Jonathan Frank.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't break the code for some time later in the war. Yeah, well, we'll see. I take PayPal and Venmo for my winnings transfers. Yeah, okay, we'll transfer you. We'll double with this from 0 to 0. Oswald Mosley's yacht. I didn't know Oswald. I knew his son, who was the head of the FIA when I was doing F1. Had breakfast with him once or twice there. Hence the apple and apple. What? Man, there's a lot of comments here from the nerds. You can still see Bletchley Park Codebreakers huts. Yeah, they built wooden huts outside of that main building because they had so many people employed up there. The Enigma machine was actually built by an engineer from the National Phone Company, the post office in Germany. Shank your finger for the age giveaway or you give him the okay wink. No, I don't think it's a big secret. Julia, is it? What year you were born, nor what year?
No.
Nav station, Stingray is saying. Here, Julia, I'll turn your mic off so you can clear your head. Julia's got a bit of a cold, but handling it pretty well. You clear it up, I'll turn your mic back on. There you go. Yeah, fourth. What is it? Showing the cloud. Man, there's a lot of comments. Look at all these comments. Everybody should subscribe to Starlink, Paul Homchick says, so Elon can get to Mars, which would make both pro and anti-Musk people happy. Look at this. Peter Taylor said he had Starlink on a plane. Well, that's pretty good. Every internet connection I've had on a plane, which has been croutonic at best. The first Enigma machine was actually captured in Poland and smuggled to the UK. Okay. Who knows? Who knows? The problem was that the code changed on a daily basis. Well, but Turing figured that out, and they figured out how to get that. Right? Okay, enough of all that. That inspired a lot of comments.
Right.
Julia?
Yes, it's all interesting.
And you're the chief nerd here on this show. You and Clark and Stingray, I think. Maybe Paul Homchick, too. He's a very bright boy, as are many others. This is the last leg. Thank God we're an hour and 42 minutes into this show.
Yeah.
Right? It's 14:42 here, Julia.
Good.
Time to wrap this one up. We get to the last leg with this report. And yet, I mean, it's the Northern Hemisphere sailing season here, and things, of course, still going on as they do year-round in Australia and New Zealand and South America and in Cape Town. Mm-hmm. This was a cool regatta, a big event. This was 2nd through the 7th of May, wrapped up on Sunday, the first regatta of 2023 for the 52 Super Series in beautiful Saint-Tropez. And here's the video. Have a look.
Okay, a big finale here in Saint-Tropez. Top of the table is super tight with Preveza leading by a single point over Allegra. Allegra 1 point up on Quantum Racing powered by American Magic. Who's going to win the first title of 2023? So light easterly breeze for the second to last race of the series. Off the line, well actually it's Phoenix which makes the best start, getting out to the right early and leads round the course. But the main protagonists, it's between Preveza and Quantum. Quantum are 5th through the finish line and Preveza through in 7th. So all tied going into the final race. So it's really all about the start and the showdown race. Gladiator got away nicely, got out to the right and lead all the way around the course to score their first win. But Quantum don't start well. They're round in 8th. Well, meantime, Provezza come through the finish line in 2nd and win the title here in Saint-Tropez.
Well, it's great. We were not expecting to perform that well in this first event. There's a lot of new things in the team. So we were approaching this like just to learn where we were. We've been a little bit surprised, but honestly, in these live wind conditions, we were performing very, very well.
And the final standings show Provezza winners on 34 points. Second, Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, on 40 points. And tied with Gladiator. Gladiator take third on Countback, also on 40 points. And so, au revoir from Saint-Tropez. We'll see you in Scarlino.
Nacho Postigo, my old friend from España. That caused some confusion here, the ESP on the SailGP sale. I had to explain that more than once.
Yeah.
España.
Yes.
I think Americans would know that.
Yes, it should.
Shouldn't they?
Yes.
Are all the other 3-letter codes on the SailGP, were they obvious? Were they apparent? NZLAUS, I guess CAN. You can't miss that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Man, the comments are continuing. I've opened up a can of worms here with this nav station, this techie thing, but it's fun. We'll do that. We'll do that. And that nice video, we'll get some more of those because this is still the best professional circuit, I think. Certainly monohull circuit in the world. Bravo Zulu to Provezza, who I guess they didn't get the final 2 races in this series. That is the final results. Quantum Racing American Magic, you know who their tactician was, Julia?
Who?
John Kostecki.
Oh, good.
Because, the American Magic guys are hard at work in Pensacola. So Bravo Zulu to them on 2nd and Gladiator 3rd and on down the list, 11 teams. And we'll follow that circuit for the rest of this summer, the rest of this year. Unless you tell us otherwise. Gets us to the finish line. Bill Wingrove's favorite photo. That's Bill in the blue boat there.
Yes.
And Pigs in Hiding is the name of his J24, or was. I'm not sure he still owns that boat, but perhaps he does. Davis Island Yacht Club down in Tampa, Florida. Julia, these are all today clean.
Oh,
You'll
too
be
bad.
proud to know. We kept them clean today. The first one, the dispatcher said, "What happened to him?" She's calling 911. That's the code in the U.S. for getting the emergency services. The wife is saying, "I told him he was right and that it was my fault." Huh?
Oh, yes.
Come on, that's good, isn't it?
It is good. It works
funny.
both ways, yeah.
Funny and it's clean.
Yes.
Ted Ryman sent that. It's the cleanest one Ted Ryman has sent in a long time. Look at all the laughs going up. Now this one is dark. The restroom is for eating customers only.
Oh, ouch.
Okay, who's the actor? Come on, who's the actor? And he played Hannibal.
Hannibal, yeah.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Who's the actor?
Oh.
The Fozzie will get it.
Yeah.
Clean, if not sexist. Yes, Steve Gruber, it's a bit sexist, but we are, if nothing else on this show, sexist, misogynist. You can cancel us if you want. We're happy to make jokes about white people, black people, women, men, gay people, everybody. People from Michigan, where the state bird is the mosquito. Tony Hopkins, Gordon Smith, yeah. Anthony Hopkins. Well done. Gordon Smith's got it. Julie Aarons has got it. Luca Craig's got it. Rick Bannon, they all get it. Such a smart crowd we have.
That's true.
And Graham Sweeney sent that one in. Finally, I'm not sure from whence this came. I think this may have been a Denise Peterson. The poor guy says, he's calling, apparently his spouse, I don't know who he's calling. "I'm trapped in an elevator. Wait, it gets worse."
For the guy playing the banjo.
And that was directed right at me.
Yes.
Right? A gentleman is somebody who knows how to play the banjo or the accordion.
It doesn't.
But doesn't. Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Okay. The banjo effect, Gordon Smith is saying. Yeah, as opposed to the accordion effect or the concertina effect we talked about. Julia, your witness.
Yes. take this opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Comments welcome, even in replay. And of course, we appreciate those of you who give us $1 or $2 or $5 or $10 a month. If you're not, please help us, because we don't take sponsors. There are not many. This is viewer-supported media. Become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Or if you want to just send us a few bucks, or send us a coffee, or send us a meal from Uber. You know, we're poor. We're hand to mouth, and we're hungry. And boy, I'll tell you, when somebody like Peter Taylor and sends us I think for the first time last night, didn't I pour you you said you wanted some Casamigos, and you didn't know if you had any left over there on your bar.
Right.
And that was the bottle from Peter.
Oh, good.
Up on your bar, and I poured you some Casamigos. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you getting along with us an hour and 50 minutes into this show. And by the way, we, along with Joe Rogan and a few others, Adam Carolla, are apparently everybody's going back to long form podcasting, video podcast, webcasting, because these little TikTok videos are not so interesting. Thanks to everybody who gave us media, audio, video, images for today's show. Julia, last thoughts?
I was just thinking how wonderful this sport is.
Our sport, and we are especially lucky to have all of these folks we have on here week after show, week after week. Come on. They're so smart, erudite. We don't need to make their heads any bigger than they are. My God. Thanks, Don Lunabos. Thank you, Alistair Murray, and thanks for your 4A. His Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. I wish more of our Fozy would be willing to do that. No pressure. But having, Alistair sticks his phone there, and he goes off stream of conscience. What? Conscience. As does John, and we really appreciate it. And I think our Fozy do too.
Yes. Now, and then bring us news, especially from a whole different perspective. And
exactly.
Really nice.
Exactly right. And it's just like having an expert on the coronation on the show last Friday.
Right.
To say nothing of all of our other Fozy. Okay, thanks everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, go sailing. And if you do, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.